In the 1970s, China was a poor, isolated country that nobody really paid attention to. It was a nation struggling to find its place in the world, with little economic power and even less global influence. Fast forward just a few decades, and China has risen to become one of the world's most formidable superpowers. But how did this happen? In the early 2000s, the world witnessed two major events that would shape the global landscape for decades to come. The first was the United States' involvement in the Iraq War, which ultimately stretched the US military thin and led to a series of military engagements across the Middle East. The second was China's accession to the World Trade Organization, WTO, in 2001, an event that would mark the beginning of China's explosive economic rise. While the US became increasingly entangled in conflicts overseas, China quietly focused on transforming itself into an economic powerhouse. The results are evident today, with China now recognized as one of the world's two superpowers. And in this video, we'll dive into the key moves and strategies that turned China into the superpower it is today. Number 1. Economic growth and transformation. China's economic ascent is one of the most remarkable success stories of the 21st century. In the early 2000s, while the United States was embroiled in the Iraq War and other military conflicts, China was laying the foundation for its own economic transformation. When China joined the WTO in 2001, it gained access to global markets, a move that would accelerate its growth in ways no one could have anticipated. In 2001, China's GDP was around $1.3 trillion, just a fraction of the United States' $10 trillion economy. The US economy was nearly 8 times the size of China's. Fast forward to 2024, and China's GDP has surged to nearly $18 trillion, while the US economy is projected to reach about $28 trillion. Now, the US economy is only 1.5 times larger than China's, a significant shift in global economic power. While the US economy is still larger, the rate at which China has caught up is significant. China's economy has grown by an average of 9 to 10% per year for over 3 decades, a rate of growth that has far outpaced most of the world. How did China achieve such rapid growth? It started with a series of bold economic reforms. Under Deng Xiaoping, China transitioned from a command economy to a more market-oriented one. This shift allowed private enterprise to thrive alongside state-owned companies, creating a dual system that helped to boost productivity while maintaining centralized control. Furthermore, China's focus on manufacturing and export-led growth played a key role. By becoming the world's factory, China was able to capitalize on low labor costs and global demand for consumer goods, from electronics to clothing. The Chinese government also invested heavily in infrastructure, building highways, railways, and airports, which facilitated both domestic and international trade. Major cities like Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Beijing saw explosive growth, with new business districts, skyscrapers, and industrial parks springing up almost overnight. Another key factor in China's rise was its strategic focus on education and technology. China prioritized the development of a skilled workforce and invested heavily in research and development. As a result, China became a global leader in fields like renewable energy, telecommunications, and artificial intelligence. In the 2000s, while the US was distracted by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, China was busy building its economy, investing in human capital, and strengthening its industrial base. The impact of these long-term strategies is clear today, as China is not only the world's second-largest economy, but also a major player in global trade, finance, and innovation. Number 2. The Belt and Road Initiative and manufacturing powerhouse. In the last few decades, China has transformed itself into the world's factory. Once known for cheap labor, China now produces nearly 30% of all global manufacturing. From electronics and clothes to high-tech machinery, China makes everything. In 2023, the US imported $500 billion worth of goods from China. If China stopped making these products, the US economy would grind to a halt. The world is now heavily dependent on China's manufacturing power. This manufacturing strength is one of the key reasons why China has become indispensable to the global economy. Today, the US relies on China for everything, from smartphones to medical supplies. If China were to stop production, countries like the US couldn't get things done. China's factories are so deeply integrated into global supply chains that they've become impossible to replace quickly. This is where China's Belt and Road Initiative, launched in 2013, comes into play. The BRI is a huge infrastructure project connecting China with countries across Asia, Africa, and Europe. By building roads, railways, ports, and energy pipelines, China is creating a global trade network that ties other countries to its manufacturing power. As of 2024, over 140 countries have signed agreements with China under the BRI. The BRI isn't just about trade, it's about making China the center of global commerce. Countries that are part of the BRI depend on Chinese investment in infrastructure like railways, ports, and energy. This creates economic ties that make it harder for these nations to cut off relations with China, even if political disagreements arise. This interdependence gives China significant leverage in global politics. One of the most important parts of the BRI is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, which provides China with a direct land route to the Middle East and Africa, bypassing the US and its allies' control of sea routes. Projects like this are part of China's plan to secure its place as the hub of global trade and influence. In addition to the BRI, China is investing heavily in high-tech industries. Its Made in China 2025 plan is focused on making China a leader in artificial intelligence, robotics, and clean energy. By advancing in these areas, China is not only a manufacturing giant, but also an innovator on the global stage. In conclusion, China's combination of manufacturing power and its Belt and Road Initiative has made it a key player in global trade and politics. The US and other countries can no longer ignore China's influence. China is now too important to the global economy to be sidelined. And number 3, technological independence. Perhaps one of China's most impressive feats in recent years has been its push toward technological independence. For decades, China relied heavily on foreign technology, especially from the US, to power its economy. However, in the face of growing tensions with the West, particularly after the US imposed trade restrictions on Chinese tech giants like Huawei, China realized that it needed to develop its own technological infrastructure to secure its future. China's technological transformation is evident in several key areas. One of the most visible examples is the country's leap into 5G technology. In 2020, China became the first country to roll out a nationwide 5G network, with companies like Huawei leading the charge. 5G technology is seen as a critical driver of future economic growth, as it will enable faster internet speeds and support emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, and the Internet of Things. In addition to 5G, China has invested heavily in artificial intelligence, with the goal of becoming the global leader in AI by 2030. The government has poured billions of dollars into AI research and development, and Chinese companies like Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent are rapidly developing cutting-edge AI technologies. In fact, China has already surpassed the US in the number of AI patents, signaling its growing influence in this critical sector. Another area where China has achieved technological independence is space exploration. In 2021, China successfully completed its Tiangong space station, marking a major milestone in its space ambitions. While the US has long been the dominant player in space, China's growing space capabilities pose a challenge to US leadership in the field. China's ability to launch its own satellites, land probes on the moon, and build a space station reflects its growing technological prowess. One of the key advantages China has over other countries like India is its ability to develop and control its own technology. India, for example, relies heavily on American technology for everything, from navigation via GPS to software such as Google's Android operating system. In contrast, China has developed its own alternatives, such as Beidou, its own satellite navigation system, which reduces its reliance on the US for critical infrastructure. This technological independence is not just about economic self-sufficiency, it's also about national security. By building its own tech infrastructure, China is protecting itself from foreign sanctions or technological blackouts. In times of geopolitical tension, China no longer has to worry about the US cutting off its access to key technologies like semiconductors or software. China's rise as a global superpower is the result of a combination of strategic decisions made over several decades. While the US focused on military engagements in the Middle East, China quietly built its economy, invested in long-term infrastructure projects, and pursued technological independence. Today, China's economic power is undeniable, and its influence on the global stage continues to grow through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative and its advancements in technology. As China moves forward, it's clear that the world will have to reckon with its status as the world's new superpower. So, what do you think? Do you agree with our video? Tell us what you think by leaving your comments below. And if you like what you watched, make sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to show your support.